Hey everyone, it's Todd the Cybertruck truck guy, and I'm doing my post-reaction video to the GM EV Hummer, and I'm doing it a little bit late because we had an early snowstorm here in Kansas City, and I had to go work in my regular job pretty heavily for the last couple of weeks. I actually even thought about not doing this video because it has been a couple of weeks, but I've seen a lot of reaction videos. It doesn't address some of the key takeaways that I had from the reveal of the new Hummer. And I wanted to talk about them because some of these are a little bit below the surface and maybe not as obvious at first, but I think they're extremely important. But if I had to sum up my reaction, it would be too little, too late, and too bad. What do I mean when I say too little? Well, I actually have multiple things where I think that the reveal did not do enough to make me think GM has a real winner on its hands. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not gonna succeed, it won't sell models. In fact, it already sold out of the whatever their first edition is. What I'm talking about is maybe more bigger picture stuff. So let me break it out into 4 reasons I say it was too little. Reason number 1, too little differentiation. Right now, there's 2 credible trucks competing for electric truck, the light electric truck, pickup truck category here in North America and even maybe more broadly over the world. And those 2 are Tesla with the Cybertruck and the Rivian R1T. But I actually think just 2 competitors is enough for us to get a feel of why I think there was too little differentiation with the Hummer. When you look at it, they're really filling 2 core categories. The Cybertruck is really going after the full-size pickup truck market, and it really has put forward a credible truck that can succeed in sort of the utility reasons people buy trucks. At the other end, you have the Rivian, and that really is focused on trucks more like my Toyota Tacoma, what's called the midsize category. So when I'm talking about differentiation, I'm really talking about 4 things. I'm talking about utility, performance, aesthetics, and I'll call it the passenger experience or the driver experience. I kind of had to look to find some things that maybe kind of separated the Hummer from a utility standpoint from either the Cybertruck or the Rivian. And you have a few things like the fact that it comes from the factory with 35-inch tires that can be upgraded to 37-inch tires without any modifications. We don't know if the Cybertruck can do it, and I'm pretty sure the Rivian can't. Those are definitely smaller tires on there. It's got that multi-pro tailgate that GMC has had with the step, and it's got different ways you can configure it, and that's kind of cool. I would like that. That's a cool tailgate. It has more cameras, especially on the underneath, so you get what they call that trail view, and as far as we know, neither the Rivian or the Tesla has that. And it has DC fast charging, which I don't know enough about charging and how much of a difference that makes, so I'm not going to talk about that very extensively. If some of you know more about that, put that in the comments so I have some understanding about what the difference is between what the Hummer is offering versus what either the Cybertruck or the Rivian is offering. And the last thing is really their 4-wheel steering, but that really isn't nearly as good, in my opinion, as somebody that would really like to have either enhanced steering or 4-wheel steering as the Rivian tank turn. I think that's way more flexible in delivering really tight turning and the kind of situations you most often experience with a truck than the 4-wheel steering. So in that regard, it doesn't seem like it's that much different. And of course, I've mentioned the fact that I would think the Cybertruck would be able to do some kind of enhanced steering, even with just 2 or 3 motors. But we don't have any evidence of that yet. And honestly, not a deal breaker for me. It'd just be a nice to have. So when you really look at it from a differentiation standpoint, on the utility side, there's not much there. Then you take it a step further in the fact that they didn't even put payload or towing or cargo capacity in there, essentially made it pretty clear they're not even trying to compete on the utility side of the pickup truck. So the next thing is performance. Well, their performance numbers are ambiguous. There's not really much there that differentiates it, whether it's clearance or acceleration, towing, torque. Tesla doesn't release, but again, it's hard for me to imagine, despite their whatever 11,000 foot-pounds of torque. We know that's a little bit of a gimmick depending on where and how you measure it. The reality is that it doesn't appear there's anything special about acceleration, towing, any of that stuff that makes the Hummer really stand out from either the Cybertruck or the Rivian. So the third area of differentiation is aesthetics. Now I'll grant you that the Cybertruck is polarizing, but when you look at the EV Hummer, it really isn't that much different than the Rivian. And aesthetics is very subjective. I don't think that it's so different and so unique that people are just automatically going to be willing to pay the premium that they're asking if they just go, the Cybertruck is too radical. They're just going to go get a Rivian. The Hummer, I don't understand its differentiation, how it really says, I'm so different than the Cybertruck or the Rivian in terms of aesthetics. I mean, obviously, in Cybertruck, yes, but in terms of the Rivian, pretty similar. So the last point of differentiation is the driver or passenger experience. And again, outside of the removable roof panels, I don't really see how the EV Hummer is substantially different than either the Cybertruck or the Rivian. There isn't some super fancy infotainment system in it. There isn't a superior self-driving system inside of it. It does have the whatever the GM system is, that's pretty good for highway cruising in certain areas, but it's not nearly as robust or as capable as the Tesla full self-driving feature. So again, when it comes to the passenger experience, the driver experience, how is it that different than the other two options that are much lower cost? Area number two, where it's too little. It's too small of a market. Look, the big three have dominated full-size pickup truck sales since the category was invented. It's their cash cow. It's the single biggest profit contributor that they have. And it's also what they're known for. Their brand is most significantly tied to, more than all the other foreign automakers, the ability to make full-size pickup trucks. The EV Hummer, it fits in the mid-size class to the extent that it's even really a truck. And the problem is that the mid-size truck vehicle market is about a quarter the size. It's much more fragmented, and it's likely going to be the place where other EV makers start out. Most of them don't want to go toe-to-toe with the full-size truck market. Toyota might, because they're already doing full-size pickup trucks in the United States. But beyond that, I don't see anyone really going after that. It feels to me like GM is actually ceding ground they can't afford to cede. They need to fight for the full-size pickup truck market, and this will not do it. This is a very small market and a very segmented market, and the market where, like Rivian, I expect to see a lot of competition. The third way the EV Hummer is too little is production capacity. They're not going to be fully ramped based on the data that they provided for 4 years. And their first edition, the one that's coming out in 2021, has already sold out. There's not a lot of people that can step up to the table and pony up $112,000 for a pickup truck. So my guess is that's a pretty small number of vehicles. 500, 1,000, 2,000, something like that. Based on their introduction schedule, when they're saying they're going to be rolling out each subsequent edition of the electric Hummer, it looks to me like ramping up production is going to be long and slow. And when you compare that to how fast Cybertruck is ramping up, and I would even say the kind of production numbers that Rivian has put out there, it makes me feel very concerned that they're not creating enough production capacity in order to defend their turf in the large SUV and pickup truck space. And then fourthly, the place where it's way too little is bang for the buck. You're talking about their second most affordable vehicle being $99,000. their cheap vehicle in 4 years being $80,000. That means you can go buy a tri-motor Cybertruck with full self-driving, even now that it's $10,000, and be at the price point of their entry-level vehicle. And based on what we know about Rivian, they're going to be sitting somewhere in between what the Cybertruck is and what the Hummer is. It just looks to me like, from a bang for the buck perspective, you literally have to be somebody that just doesn't give a damn about your dollars in order to go out and buy an EV Hummer. Because there's not enough differentiation, there's not enough performance, there's not enough utility in order to justify this super premium price tag that they're getting. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So like I said, too little, too late. When you make a ramp of a vehicle have a 4-year window for when you're actually going to be able to deliver something that maybe possibly begins to look like it's scaling, you're basically saying, we give up, we surrender, we can't compete. We can't beat Tesla at their own game. They are way too late. And their rollout strategy indicates that there really is no plan to get there faster. Now, maybe they think 2024 is soon enough in order to defend the rest of their business. Maybe that's their hypothesis. I've seen some industry experts suggesting that we're going to be at somewhere between 50 and 100,000 total light trucks sold in 2024. But that's to say that Cybertruck isn't going to be producing when they say they're going to produce, and the demand won't be a third or a fourth or a fifth of what the reservation count suggests that it is. And there's nothing that I've seen, nothing to indicate that that's the case. This to me is the most concrete evidence that the competition is not coming, or definitely is not coming from traditional ICE vehicles. They don't see or haven't anticipated enough in order to get production to scale within 3 or 4 years from now. And in my book, that's way too late. Now, lastly, I say that's too bad, because I was actually hoping that the EV Hummer was going to be somewhere in the same range as the Rivian, with somewhere around the same kind of production dates. Maybe a year later, okay? But Rivian is expecting to be at scale by 2022 or 2023. There's no evidence that the competition is waiting. And I guess we'll wait to see what Ford comes up with, because at least they're working on something. As far as we know, FCA hasn't done anything of merit in the truck category. So right now, it really does seem like category of two. Basically, the Cybertruck and Rivian are it. There's nobody that has a realistic pathway for high production capacity besides those two vendors. And someone that has grown up in North America in the middle of truckland, watching this category get probably totally owned by people that weren't even in the business 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that is a remarkable thing. And to make my point, I want to show you something real quick before I go. Okay, so what I mean when I say it's too bad is that if you look at Q1 2020 and you look at Tesla Model 3 versus all the small and mid-sized luxury cars, you can see that it ended up being number one. And it ended up being number one, not by a little bit. This Model 3 didn't exist. It wasn't being produced until whenever it was, 2017, 2018. And it came from nowhere to suddenly being the dominant vehicle in its class. And my worry, and probably it's more than a worry now, it feels like it's a foregone conclusion, is that it's inevitable now that we're going to see the same thing with the Cybertruck, and I think to some extent with the Rivian in the pickup truck categories. What I was trying to say is, when you look at 2019, here's the 3 full-size pickup trucks plus the Tundra, and Titan. You've got whatever that is, almost 2 million full-size pickup trucks, 2.2 when you factor in the Tundra and the Titan, of 3.1. So of the remainder, Sierra. Yeah, my bad. Sierra's a full-size luxury line of pickup trucks. So it's like, 2.4 million. So the 3.1 million, 2.4 million is full-size trucks. So that means 600,000 is the market that both Rivian and the Hummer are going into. There isn't a truck on here, I don't know of any of these, including the Raptor, including the new TRX, that are in the same price range. So when you're talking about your seating, they're giving up. They're not even trying to compete in the largest truck market in the world because they're not competing in full-size pickup trucks. And there appears to be no plans for them to do so. So you're talking about, I think you're going to see the same thing that happened here, happen here. And I was hoping there was something we were going to see with the Hummer that would at least let me go, okay, well, they're on par with Rivian. They're going to be able to offer a competitive product to Rivian. And I don't see it. This is a toy, basically. They're building a status symbol that they can afford to produce and make a profit in at 100,000 plus per vehicle. And the number of people that are going to buy it is going to be whatever, 5 to 25,000 a year, maybe. Unless Ford reveals something remarkable, the game for full-size pickup trucks is like over, because all Tesla needs to do is come up with a different body style that looks more like a conventional truck, and literally it's game over. The only reason people are not going to want to buy the Cybertruck is the aesthetics. And the aesthetics are the easiest thing for Tesla to come up with another option to. And the hard thing is the batteries. And they're going to be producing the most. They're going to have the most capacity. And so I don't think it's at all far-fetched to imagine that Tesla is going to come up with a more classic design for a pickup truck. And then they're going to have like the futuristic version of the truck and a more classic version of a pickup truck. And who's going to compete with them? Rivian. As far as I can tell, Rivian's the only legitimate competitor out there in the truck space. Maybe if Ford gets their act together and they build a partnership with somebody, who knows? I mean, I know they're kind of connected to Rivian. Again, that makes me think maybe the competition is really going to be three-way. Rivian, Ford, and Tesla. I was really disappointed. I really was hoping to see a more mainstream product come from Detroit to compete in electric pickups and SUVs. I think they're making an SUV version, but no, not. It feels to me like we should start playing taps. So, which is a real bummer. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.